This computer. Good.
Okay.
And Michelle's on mute, so I'm not sure if Phyllis is coming, but the four of us are exactly what I was hoping for. So that's great. Hi, Robert.
Hello, Nancy.
Hey, Nancy and Michelle. You're on mute, Michelle. So there's only a few of us, so you can unmute yourself if you want to. Unless you have barking dogs with you or meowing cats like Nancy. My cat's sleeping, I guess. So anyway, welcome. And this, I realize this is such an exciting committee because we do so many important things, but it also made me realize how many things that we're involved in. And this last year, it was sort of a burden. And so I want to make sure that we don't take on too much that we can't do well. But before we start, I want to welcome Michelle. Thank you for joining our group. Everybody knows Michelle, and Michelle was involved in this committee for years while I was away. And I think also we covered some while I was back too. And when I asked Michelle if she'd participate, she was so enthusiastic. So I thought, great, because we can really use her input, her knowledge, her experience. It'll be great. So welcome, Michelle. And I'm going to just put the agenda up real quick. Let me just, it's all ready. I'll just share. Whoops, I have to share this first. Come on, go away. Okay, share. And I promise you we'll be out of here before 6. So Michelle asked how long the meetings were. I said, well, at least under an hour. There we go. And so I know Pastor Deborah will not be here, and I hadn't heard from Phyllis, but the rest of us are here. And what I want to do is just briefly go over this calendar. Stop share. Okay. And then share. Because I just want to make a point here that we have a small committee, and some of these activities are pretty easy to do because they're one-offs, or we know how to do it, or with a group. So the Hotel de Zinc is a big deal, and there's a lot of planning, but we've got it down pat. And this might be our last year coming up, because Life Moves has gotten approval for building affordable housing that includes all their services and outreach and everything, meals and services, in East Palo Alto, off of what's that road? San Antonio Road. An old water equipment, water processing plant had closed, and it's right on the bay, so it's beautiful. It's a beautiful location, and they're going to be building affordable housing for transitional people, and they'll be housing about 200 people there. So Hotel de Zinc will no longer have to exist after this is up and running, but we probably have one more year. Then you see the Pride event in San Jose.
Excuse me, Nancy, has this been confirmed by Life Moves?
Yes, I'm on a committee with them. So they just announced this last couple of weeks ago that Palo Alto City has approved the bond or the grant and all the funding. So it's going to take a year to build. So that means it probably will not open until next fall or later. But by 2024, Hotel de Zinc will no longer exist. So we have one more year most likely, unless something happens. And because of COVID and keeps coming back, there's no real socialization. So it's not like what the first vision of it was, where church members would get to meet, some of the clients of Life Moves and Opportunity Knox, or Opportunity. Is it Opportunity Knox? No, Opportunity Center. And in the last couple of years, we have only dropped off meals in the parking lot. So there's been almost zero interaction with the 15 or so clients that come. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of meals. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of work on the part of Life Moves. And, the payback is probably not significant because the service is not what it was supposed to be. And now with this new housing with 200 families or single people, they'll all be in one place, and there'll be a lot of time for our church to be able to volunteer over there, for instance. And there'll be a lot more interaction. So when I hear more about it with pictures and stuff, I'll share them with all of you. Robert, did you raise your hand?
No,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
no.
So then we have every year a Pride event in San Jose. We're not very active there. We make a small donation to be a sponsor, but it's put on by the other Methodist churches. Nancy, are you familiar with it?
Only that it existed. I haven't been involved with it at all.
Yeah, most of us do not.
Yeah.
Karen, with Seeds, has been involved with it in the past, but she's been sort of tied up with her father being ill and working, making up for not working during COVID. And so she has in the past been involved, will be very minimally involved. We'll announce it in the church so people can go and attend. I think Karen's going to try to get some photos up that will be, not posted up, but, viewed on a by the people who are in charge of it. And there's the church in San Jose. There are a couple of Methodist churches, and they're very active. So it's just so you know that that's on there, and we are a sponsor, and I approved $125 of our budget to promote that. And then we have the Alzheimer Walk, which, Robert has typically been in charge of in the past. Robert, is there any update, or, is the church going to be involved again this year?
To be honest, I've not heard any interest in it at all, except from you, Nancy. No one else has approached me. No one else has, asked me. The people that, I mentioned it. I believe I mentioned it to Vicky, but she, with her running for public office, I think she's pretty much disconnected from other things, and no one else has mentioned it. So, I have been doing this for, I think since 2015. I think we skipped it in 2016, but I think I was involved in maybe even back to 2014, because I remember doing this before, before Richard Pike was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so, and then I personally, I got to say, guys, I'm just not, I used to run around after church and, would you sponsor me? Would you sponsor me? Would you sponsor me? And I'm just kind of don't want to do that this year. I mean, if there was interest in doing this, if I felt like I'd have a team of, of people, each of whom we, we don't want to put an exact, figure on the amount that you raise, but if I felt like people were willing to go out and raise some money, then I'd be more enthused. But I just haven't heard I've heard very little interest.
I wonder if Linda Grossman would want to take it on this year.
I don't know.
I mean, we could ask her, since she has the.
It's much that I'd be willing to lead the effort, but I'm just, some other people are going to have to step up and do the fundraising. I was not always the best walker, and it was never about becoming the person that raised most money. That wasn't what was in it for me. But this year, if we get this going, I have a pretty modest goal, and I think I know how to get to that goal. And then, yeah, I'm pretty much done in terms of my personal, fundraising. But if there are other people who want to, step up and go contact their friends and raise money, then I would be willing to get this thing going.
Can I say,
Yes, Nancy.
I've always appreciated that Robert was walking and everything, and been happy to support our team through Robert. But I think that what we've done, it seems to me in the past, is to announce that this walk is going to take place and if anybody wants to participate. And I really think, like the things that Robert was just saying, if we ballyhooed that a bit more, made an announcement, and even like that, encouraging people to sign up and asking friends. I mean, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Bring your friends and, sign up, because how important this is. Throw in a few statistics. I mean, Alzheimer's is horrendous, but it covers all of us one way or another. I mean, I think that maybe we could do more than just an announcement, but even a series of announcements with, a different point each week for a while. So this is in August. It's time to.
No, that's just planning.
Right
I
now.
think it's in September, isn't it, Robert?
No, it's in mid-October. We have
Oh,
about
good. We have time. Let me move this over there.
Yeah.
8
So
weeks.
anyway, I'm
Good,
just.
that's better. And what I'm going to do, because this is the point about our committee, is that we don't have a lot of people. And what we need to do is recruit people to be in charge of these different projects. Because otherwise, I get a lot of people saying, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? But I said, we're a small committee. And
I want to make it clear, Nancy, I'm not expecting the committee to step up and do a lot
no,
of
but
heavy
Nancy
lifting.
was talking about that. And
Right.
I think we just have to be careful not taking on too many things, because it's a lot of work, even though. And so I'm going to ask Linda Grossman if she would take it on,
Mhm.
because
Or if she's
her
even
cause.
if she's interested to, whether she leads it or I leave it, is she willing to go out and beat the hustings?
Yeah, because she raised the most money last year.
Yeah.
And, she would, and she has a real reason for doing this, Richard, and she was really committed. So I think we need to have her partner with Robert and make it happen. How's that sound?
That sounds like a plan. I mean, I can reach out to a few people I know in the congregation over the next, before Sunday, and
Good.
see what kind of reaction I get. The other problem is the Alzheimer's got a black eye. It's most unfortunate, but and I don't want to go into what was supposed to be the science, but I do think it's fair to say that what was believed to be the cause of the disease has been seriously questioned. And to make it worse, there are serious, credible allegations that what was believed to be the original science, the papers, there was manipulation of data to the degree that people are using the word fraud to describe what's been going on. And this relates back to the fact that there's been basically no progress in Alzheimer's in, I would say, decades. There were one and I believe two medications that were approved, but the approval process was extremely controversial. There were claims that the manufacturers were leaning on FDA people to get this approved. There were claims that the medications were not effective, and they are also, at least the one that I know, for the one that I know about its pricing, it is very expensive. It's well into 5 figures with considerable out of pocket. So it's very unfortunate because Alzheimer's is, back when I was able to do a little bit of political advocacy, I was meeting with candidates for public office almost 3 years ago, and people described it as a looming Category 5 hurricane. And I know 3 people in our faith community. I mean, one of them is Richard. He's passed away, but the 2 others, I don't want to say who they are, but I'm quite certain one of them, I think it's been confirmed, and the other person, it's that I've just been given based on information that I think is trustworthy. So that's 3 people in our faith community
Yeah.
that were stricken with it, not that know somebody, but were themselves stricken with it. And when I mention Alzheimer's just to anyone, coworkers or people, I'm having a chat with, they always know somebody. So, it is a real problem. And so I think, let me reach out to a few people, see
Yeah,
what
and
kind of
then
reaction I
do you
get.
want to
And
call, you want to speak to Linda, or do you want me to speak with Linda?
I'll mention it to her.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Because it'd be great if she could do it with you.
Mhm.
And we have time. Because, like you said, there's people in the church, and it's something we always do. Yeah. And you and Linda certainly are well prepared. It's not like a new project. So why don't you do that and just get back to us, Robert? That would be great.
Okay.
The crop walk last year, I gave it back to Pastor Deborah and said, you're going to have to ask another committee, because at that point, there were very many inactive people, unlike you people on the committee, who never were interested in jumping in. And I just couldn't do it. I had just done Hotel de Zinc, and then we had Alzheimer's, and then the crop walk. So I think she had Christine and her husband, what's his name? Kyle, step in. And in fact, I wasn't even here. So I don't know if anybody else participated last year. Do you remember anybody that, Nancy or Michelle or Robert? I think I will ask them again if they will do it. Otherwise, we can link up with maybe, Menlo Park or Los Altos and just join their group. We've done it every year, and I would like to just share it with somebody if either, Christina and Kyle would not do it. Because, yes, Robert,
Yeah, in the past, Emily King has led that effort.
I can ask her too. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it can't be one of us. It has to be somebody who will take a one-off.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm trying to do when people come to me. I say, can you bring somebody with that project?
Mhm.
Because you'll see, I mean, we're going to get very busy, and especially the second half of the year. The Joy of Giving campaign is always at the end of the year, and we did it in a rush last year. And unfortunately, we didn't reach out to the congregation. I know, Michelle, you had a couple of organizations you wanted to put for consideration. So, we usually start in November with, well, first of all, we meet as a group and we come up with potential participants for the campaign. It's 3, nonprofits in the Bay Area or in the community, the greater community, and then 3 international. And, it's a fun project to get pulled together, but it is, making sure that we look at their Charity Navigator. We know somebody who's involved with it. We don't do a lot of due diligence because it's a connection. Sometimes it's Brenda Burrell's organization. One time or 2 times it was mine in Afghanistan. So, it's like there's some connection. Pastor Deborah had somebody did the computers last year, and so on. And so we try to do minimal work, but we try to reach out to people and really, honor organizations that truly need this help and they'll make a difference. So we tend to, limit it to smaller organizations, not multi-million dollar nonprofits, because we typically raise between under 1,000 or just over 1,000 per organization. Typically, we raise between $12,000 and $14,000 from the congregation. There's 6 organizations, so some get more and some get less. But I'd say the average is, maybe $1,500 an organization in donations. So we'll be talking about that probably in October, because let me just put that here, because we get it ready and then we make presentations, as you remember. We make presentations to the congregation. There we go. Over probably 3 weeks, 2 organizations a Sunday. And we put a little brochure out with a write-up. And Charlotte has a template, and we just change the wording every year in the organizations. But that's a wonderful activity for us to do. I really enjoy this because, these organizations are so thankful. Then we also, at Christmas time, we had the Life Moves gift collection. And, sometimes there's a toy collection, and EHP might have a collection, but those are pretty straightforward. We get the barrels, the donation barrels, and they deliver them, and we make announcements, and they pick them up and collect them. And then our social action movie, it's weekly. It looks like a lot, but Nancy and I belong to this, Nancy Olson, and we watch a social action themed movie every week, every Monday night. And Michelle, you've attended early on. Now we have a solid group about between, usually 9 to 12 people, and they're typically a regular group, but other people come in from time to time. And we've seen over and discussed over 100 films. And, we started during COVID. And I know for one, I love the discussion. I love watching these films. Nancy, I'm sure you do too, because you keep coming back.
I'm addicted.
I'm addicted too, because, it's so great. You see films, you never thought of, and then you have great discussion. We have a couple of psychiatrists in the group, so that always helps. We had a transgender oriented film last night, and we had 2 psychiatrists who were really, really helpful in talking about the background of that. And we all learned something. So that will continue regardless of whether I'm on the committee or not ever, because I love it. I hope we do it for another 2 to 4 years. Then the last, I think this is all we do right now. Then the last one is this Curian Trust grant that we just got from the Curian family. I didn't know her. Nancy, did you know who she was?
No, I've never met her.
Well, she left a big trust to the church.
Yeah.
60,000 was our part of it. I think it was $150,000. We got 60. The finance department got 60, and then 30,000 went to, I forget what it was.
I don't remember either.
But we got $60,000, and we have no restriction except they want it to go to support people who are not affluent. And so what I did, and that's all we were told, and we can do it. We can give out the funds over a long period of time. It doesn't have to be granted out all in 1 year. We make the rules. We're in charge of this. And it's sort of like, I was thinking of CEF, the Centennial Endowment. They have How many people on that committee? About 20 people? Robert's on that committee. You're on mute, Robert. So,
It's more like 8.
oh, 8, okay.
Yeah, no, it's not that big a committee.
They have 8 that just focus on Centennial Endowment. And they give out between $60,000 and $100,000 a year in grants. So
Although, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
that's okay.
quite a bit of that is going to be going to the operating budget. There was a change made in the policy about 2 or 3 years ago that
But in the years past, I was on that committee for a while. It was always 50,000 or more a year that, grants would come in on applications. The committee got copies of all the grants. There were certain guidelines.
right,
And then we all discussed them and had people come in to,
right.
answer questions. And I thought, well, that was a big committee and that's all they did.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at our small committee and this is where I want to hear your thoughts about this. How do we approach it? How do we keep it simple, but make sure that the money goes to really needy people who deserve it? How do we keep it safeguarded that people are not, misusing the funds? And we don't have to start right away of giving out money, but I thought I went through a couple of online, grant making guidelines, and I'd like to hear your ideas, what you think, how we should approach this. I mean, this is just an open discussion. And it's being recorded, so we'll have it. Does anybody want to start?
Not just for this fund,
This
but-
fund, yeah, for any, yeah, and for the joy of
but
giving.
in general, I've wanted, somehow I would be on a committee to help to identify needs in our community.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of groups and everything doing individual things, but I mean, I've wanted our church to be involved in outreach more, that.
yeah,
But anyway, but at the same time, I've never known how to go about identifying that need. And so if there is a database or something, someplace, I would love to be aware of it because I'd like to know people in need in our own community. And I know there are some. But I don't know how to identify them. And so before I would think about coming up with a program to help one of them, I'd like to know what the different groups are. Am I the only one that stews about this?
no, Michelle, what are your thoughts? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah. In my past experience, I mean, we often had people on the committee who were involved in local groups, and then they would bring things to our attention. And I recall EPA Can Do being one of them, and Green Pastures being one of them. And these were brought by members of the congregation who were involved in some, local program. That's how we found out about things. And often led to like a Centennial Endowment grant application to help these organizations. So I feel like the needs are so diverse that it's very hard to, figure out a way to find out, what they are and what organizations are addressing them. So I don't have a good answer to that question. Our congregation has gotten so much smaller that I think it's even harder now to find out just by connecting with members of the congregation. So
You're right.
Well, I mean, it is more tough. And I mean, other foundations send out like requests for proposals. That's very formal. And or funding announcements. I mean, we could go to other churches, because they all don't have funding like we have. We have a Centennial Endowment Fund, and lots of churches do not even have that. And, or we could go to the Pastors Council and ask them, we could reach out to people who know people and organizations, small organizations that are in need. And because, I just got one from a referral from Pastor Deborah from a group close by, and I'm using them sort of as a test. I don't know of them, but it looks like they're doing good work. But I'm asking them a lot of questions. I'm asking them for their, 990s, which are their financials, just to see if the financials look, and I'm a financial person, so I can look at financials. I can see if there's monkey business or they're paying huge salaries or, and just make sure that, they're honest. But we don't know them. And I wouldn't even, they want our committee to, or Pastor Deborah said, could you recommend them to the CEF? And I'm thinking, no, I don't know them. I have to do some due diligence. I used to be an investor. I used to be work for a foundation. So I have some experience in this. And it takes just as much time for small organizations to invest in as large ones, because you just want to make sure they're honest people, their work is good, there's accountability, that they're really truly helping people. And so the best ones come from recommendations, and then we do some due diligence. We ask them to provide us information, like their financials, like their operating budget, like their mission statement and their program objectives. Because I don't see too many individuals that we would help. Pastor Deborah has a fund. The Pastor Fund is to help individuals, and she'll help with rent and, a family who's, all of a sudden kicked out of their apartment. They need down payments or food in need. But this one, I think, is a little more, because it's 60,000. It's the other thing, you don't want to give out too many small things, or maybe we do. But, there's this whole yin and yang. If you give out money, you want to have some type of checking if these people or this organization is real and honest. And the money is, because it's our fiduciary responsibility to make sure that this wonderful woman gets what she wants, which is to truly help people. So, it's our first discussion of it, and I just thought I'd throw this out so we can think about it. And I'll send you, I sort of, it's a 2-pager, not even a page and a little bit, just on what other grants, foundations. And these are usually larger grants and larger foundations, but not really too big. And, they give some guidelines. And then we have the CEF as well. But, we're only a small group, and I don't want to bring people to check 1 or 2 grants. You need to calibrate, if the 4 of us are going to calibrate all the grants, it should be the 4 of us. We can't bring in a person once in a while to participate because they haven't seen the other grants. That's why the CEF works so well. They, the committee members see all the grants, they can calibrate them one against the other, and then they can make a decision. And it's probably a better judgment than if they have just random people looking at these grants from time to time. So for us, if we're looking at these, we have to be able to manage them, but we have to also be sure that they're worthy of getting the money. Then the follow-up is easy. I would request, and I wish CEF used to do this, request, follow-up reports. What did you use the money for? What were the results? Just to make sure there's accountability. And that's them. And sometimes we'll even have them as speakers or articles for insights. But the first step is, how do we find the people, like you are saying? But I think we should think of people who are good contacts, good sources of small nonprofits or individuals. There's, the Rotary Club also does scholarships for needy kids. And I thought there's no reason why we can't give scholarships for college or, junior college, community college for really needy, smart kids who would not be able to go otherwise.
I have a comment about that. When I was still doing outreach my last year as chair, which I don't remember how long ago that was, we had that idea that we would offer scholarships to, local kids. And we sent out information to all local high schools, counseling departments, and so forth. And the response was dismal, I have to say, because it wasn't a lot of money. And apparently around here, if you're not offering a big scholarship, people just think it's not worth their time. Whereas, community college costs maybe $5,000 a year, and $1,000 scholarship will go a long way, but not very many kids were interested.
How, it was $1,000 scholarship?
Yeah, we had the main, I think the main prize was 1,000, and then 500 and 250. So it was like 1,750 for the whole thing. And it was funded through a CEF grant, but we did not get, a lot of response. We did award all of the money, but I was actually surprised because I really felt like we did not get the cooperation from like schools. I mean, because that's kind of who you have to rely on to get the
Yes.
information out there. And I felt like they, something comes through $500. Oh, well, I'm not even going to bother with that or whatever. I don't know what the excuse was, but we were not able to get the kind of exposure we had hoped to get. So I just put that out there that
No, that's
scholarship's a good idea. It's just very hard to reach the people who might, be interested, and maybe they're not interested unless it's a lot of money.
well, $1,000 I think is a good number. I'll check with the Rotary Club that I just spoke at the Rotary Club, and a young woman was also a speaker, and she was just awarded a scholarship from the Rotary Club.
Yeah,
And I'll ask them, how do you reach out? How do you find these people?
right. Because in my experience with my kids, organizations that they were in, I know Matthew got a bunch of little scholarships from 4-H. He was in 4-H, and I don't know, a couple other things. But I mean, it adds up, right? So
Sure does.
yeah. So
And $1,000 is, I think, a good number. Well, let me check with them and see how they do that. And other churches maybe have youth. I mean, any denomination, of course, but the pastors' council, maybe that's worthwhile. I don't know. We have to think of what organizations to reach out to that could be our, eyes and ears to send people here. But we also have to come up with a mission statement. So we give them, this is what we're looking for. And we have to think about that as well. And, I didn't put anything. I said eligible organizations or 501c3 organizations, or it could be a community organization.
But wait a minute, you're also talking about scholarships.
And then, or qualified sponsored individuals for scholarships.
Okay.
Because, there's a lot of, she said for people who are not able, are not affluent. Well, education is so important. And if the Rotary Club I think they gave out $1,000 scholarship to this young woman. She was so appreciative. And she went to a community college. And, her parents were immigrants. She was an immigrant. And, so these immigrants who go to primarily FERS, the community college, $1,000 is a lot to them. Their parents have money, they have zero for college.
I would think that maybe, what we had thought, we were trying to just we keep it, geographically local. We had some geographic boundaries on it. I don't remember what they were now. But I actually think that maybe connecting with the community college itself is the way to go, because I think a lot of people around here just poo-poo community college, and they, it's like, well, $1,000 isn't going to pay my tuition to Yale or
Right,
whatever.
right. No, we
So-
don't want- those are people who are going to Yale unless they get a full scholarship. We would not be interested in them because
No,
they're
no.
affluent. And so we're looking for the kids who have to go to, the community college. And even that is a reach for a lot of them, apparently.
Mhm.
So anyway, Nancy?
I'm just gonna say that $1,000 will buy at least your semester books. Books are so costly. And that was, I was just remembering when I was going back to school and everything, that just the cost of the books for the classes was staggering.
Well, now they can buy used or rent books.
Still
yeah.
expensive.
So expensive.
It's
Yeah.
still expensive? Okay. Well,
Mhm.
let me check with the Rotary. We'll check with different organizations. I don't know if anybody wants to check with the junior colleges in the area. And I'll check with the Rotary. I'll check with Sandra Florsted. She's part of Rotary in Palo Alto, and get her thoughts, and the Foster City one, which I just spoke at. Because I think, if there is a need for scholarships for mostly these kids of color and children of immigrants, that would be a good use. I mean, I heard her speak, this young woman. She was so appreciative. They told her life story. It was like, oh my God, and that scholarship really went a long way with her. And she said, I would never be able to continue my education. And she was older because she couldn't go when she was younger. She had to go to work. And so I thought that might be one of the easier ways to go is, find the need and then start talking about how we can reach these people. And that was just one idea, was a scholarship, because I thought of that young woman at that Foster City Rotary Club.
I like the idea that you just mentioned there, that, maybe we don't aim it at like high school graduates, people who've just, are just going on to college after high school. Maybe we aim it at people who, have been delayed in their
Yes.
pursuing their educational goals. I think that there's probably really a need out there for that. Yeah.
And Life Moves might have access
Yeah.
to those people as well, because there's
Yeah.
families going through that group. And, the family, they had like out of their first, it's called Home Key, their first transitional housing had 100 rooms, 20 were for families, and they went quickly. They're bigger than the ones for single people. And they only stay there 90 to 120 days. And then they get into permanent housing. But the families, they said, are the most successful of all their people going through this transition from homelessness to getting services, getting off the drugs, off the, liquor, whatever their problems are, mental health. And they get out of that housing the quickest. And now this new one that's opening in Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, the San Antonio Road, they're going to make more family units. And the families include, children of these people who are going to be going to community college. They're not all young children. And Life Moves sees a lot of families. So I thought, this could be another good resource. Yes, Robert.
So I have several questions. First of all, do we have access to the text in the will or the trust document?
We can get it from, Lou. Lou is the one, Lou Bellardo was the one who announced it. And I asked him exactly what it said. And he said, well, it's very short, and I'll read it, but we can get the whole thing.
Yeah, I
It's
think that
special
was,
fund.
I think that would be very helpful
Yeah, it said,
because it helps us figure out.
yeah, for less affluent. Let me get the exact.
Okay.
And, we have the, the fund is SP 645. And I will get that, but we can think about it. And then if, I'll look at Rotary and I'll look at Life Moves and other like the EHP and just see, is it EHP? Yeah. And other organizations and ask them, how do you get in touch with needy people who have gone through your program, because they do all the due diligence. They've already served these people. They've gone through their program. They're graduating into housing. So we know that, they're going to be at least screened by other people who we trust. I think that's a good way of getting potential people to fund, and not just put out a newspaper ad, which we would never do, but announcement, taking all applications. I can't see us looking at hundreds of applications of a lot of kooky people. It will just swallow us up. But if we go through people and organizations, we will start getting some good candidates without a lot of work.
So there was, I think you also mentioned a mission statement, Nancy?
Yeah, we have to come up with, we can say it's for the less affluent, but we can be, a little more specific.
Because I really want to see the exact text. If I see Lou, I may ask him about that.
Well, I'll send him an email and copy all of you, and he'll send it to us. But
Because,
our,
for the less affluent, that's just really
yeah,
vague. I mean, that could be
That
anything
means-
from, basically a supercharged pastor's discretionary fund to, when I hear that, I don't really hear nonprofits, Nancy. I hear this.
well, a
is-
lot of nonprofits serve these people. We can't go out looking for these people
Mhm.
because we'll never have the time or the resources to.
Right.
No, when Pastor Deborah was not there one Sunday, a man came in and said, "Oh, my name is Fred," or whatever his name is. Where's Pastor Deborah? And I said, "Well, she's not here today." "Well, I need to talk to somebody. I need money right now. My rent is due." Well, somebody told me that guy comes every Sunday asking for money for the same.
Yeah, I think.
And I don't want to deal with that.
I think I've met him.
We can't deal with that type of stuff. We
Right.
don't have, that's not our job. It's too much. And
But getting back to nonprofits, like there's a nonprofit that Vicky is starting this Sibling Cities initiative, and much as I have respect for that, it sounds a little bit outside of what this trust grant is about. Is that
yes, it would be definitely outside.
okay?
Their mission is not helping less affluent people.
Okay.
But so
It would, because to me, it would be, I like like the idea of reaching out to the pastors' councils. I think that's something where a large group of pastors meet periodically to talk about things.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the other thing is that, we also need to decide, do we want to, how quickly do we want to disperse these funds? We want to have like one season where we hand out all 60,000, or do we want to
no.
hand it out over several years? And if we, don't hand it out quickly, then how do we manage how do we manage the funds? Because the CEF, their funds are managed by this Methodist Foundation, which they may have $1 billion under management, because it's all these hundreds of thousands of churches with their.
Oh, ours is not going to be like that.
Right.
Finance, Lou and the finance department committee will handle the funds. We don't have to deal with that.
Okay, because the reason I want to mention that is because there are times when the funds lose value. The first quarter of this year was one of those. The CEF was down, I forget, 10%.
But we don't have that percent. We have $60,000 US.
Right.
That's it. So we'll keep it simple as we can.
Right. Okay.
We're not like CEF with that. mathematical, it's a lot.
Well, the point, the difference is, I think this is just, the principle is to be dispersed. CEF, the principle is to not be dispersed. It's like, it's an endowment. It's like Stanford has 10, 20, $30 billion in endowment. They don't spend that money, maybe even more, I have no idea. They don't spend that money, but they live off they take the interest, the
But we
market growth.
we're not, as far as I know.
Right. That's why I wanted to
No, we're just a grant. So-
make that distinction clear.
Yes. And
'Cause
we're not collecting interest, it's only 60,000. The church CEF has millions of dollars. So that's why it works. And endowments work off the enormous interest that gets thrown off by these endowments. We're nothing like that. We're just a small grant of $60,000. So, I don't want, that's why I want to make sure we keep it simple and clear as a group, what it is we want to fund. But I guess the best thing to do is do some research, talking to different groups on how to identify either small nonprofits where this money would really make a difference for their less affluent people that they're serving, or scholarships, or it's something else that any of you bring up that we can discuss. So this is just the first.
I was thinking, I'm less favorably disposed toward this. I was thinking about having an announcement to the congregation.
Not
but,
yet. We
you know,
have, we have to have our mission statement. We have to have
Right.
homework done.
Right.
We can't, otherwise we're going to be inundated with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. When there's money,
Mhm.
people come running, and none of us are going to want
So
to.
what is the schedule for putting together this mission statement?
Well, right now, we're
Okay.
starting
I mean,
So
is it like in the next 2 weeks, or is it
the next month.
next month? Okay.
I think if everyone could sort of take one side project. So when we come back, Nancy, you have your hand up.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm volunteering to contact the Foothill De Anza district
Thank you.
and see what the situation is there. and report back.
That's what we should be doing this month. And Michelle, if you could find your old paperwork or something, or if you think it's worth it. If not, would you be willing to contact some group or groups? Oh, you're on mute. Michelle, you're on mute.
Let me think about that. I'm actually going to be out of town for most of the next month, but
Or send us some ideas. I mean, those of us who are here could follow up.
okay. One idea I did have, I just thought of was, this was sort of more toward the beginning of the pandemic, but I know that the district office, the El Camino district, sent out a request to support families for people who had lost their jobs. And so the district office might be a place to ask about needs as well.
Okay. And I'll check with Vicky, since she's running for council in Palo Alto. I actually met a bunch of the mayor and other people at her house. She had a small gathering. She was here this weekend to kick off the sibling sisters and the church council. So I will follow up with some of those people I met. And just, start, and there's a woman that Pastor Deborah introduced me to. She represents a lot of nonprofits in the area when we were looking at workspace. And she was very connected with the greater world of nonprofits in Palo Alto. And she'll be good. So if we do that, Robert, you might want to ask some people on CEF their thoughts, or people who might be knowledgeable about what groups we might want to partner with on this.
Can you say more about this person that Deborah recommended?
Well, it's just a test case. I'm trying to use them to ask them information
Mhm,
because I don't know them.
mhm.
And I asked them for their charity navigator and they're not on there. So I said, well, then I went through the charity navigator and went through the information that they asked to rank. And I said, the most important fun thing to me is their financials. I want to see if they're on the salary.
But
and
what is this woman or group or person do?
Well, I don't want it because it's probably nothing we're gonna do. I'm trying to use them as a template on how much information we ask,
Mhm.
how much due diligence we do, because it's a lot of work. And I don't want to do a lot of work. And I used to work for a foundation. It takes enormous amount of times to decide if the applicant is worthy.
Mhm.
Unless they come, recommended through an organization or people who are on the board, like, what's his name? Ted used to be on the EDP or EHP.
Yeah, EPA
Board.
can do.
Yeah, so he knew everything about that organization.
Mhm.
Knew the financials, he knew the management team, he knew the work they did. And so that's why we want more of those TED people who are on the boards or who know organizations. Pastor Deborah met these people at a meeting. She doesn't know them. She's not on their board. So I'm trying to do the due diligence. I would feel comfortable that, yes, they're worthy to either send to CEF or for us. But I'm finding that I don't want to ask them so much information that's a burden to them, or it's not enough that I don't feel comfortable either recommending them to CEF for this next round or for us. And I don't want to go visit their place. I don't want to have to go interview people. It's just too much work. It's too intensive because for the 100 people we would meet, you're going to fund maybe 10 people. If they're coming recommended by somebody or an introduction, it's just too much. It's too time consuming for our small group. And then we'll also learn what size of grant is worth it. Is the scholarship of $1,000 worth it? When Nancy reports back from the I always say junior college, community college group, they might say, oh, that no one, it's not worth it. You should start with 2,000. Or I talk to Life Moves and they say, oh yeah, we have people there, they're moving out of the transitional housing. They really need help with this. Okay, Michelle.
So another thing to consider, I don't know if there's a geographic limitation on, like, when we're talking about the less affluent, how wide is our,
That's one of the things to
Yeah.
consider, because if we do have to go visit the place, we don't want to be driving up to Marin County.
right?
And so I would say San Mateo, Santa Clara County maybe is our limit.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out because, I can see us driving around or having people meet us, or that could work. And there's probably enough people and organizations in the two counties that we could support without having to go too far away, unless it's somebody very special case. Okay, anything else? Nancy, when you find out what you have, why don't you share it with us?
I will.
And Robert, if you could think about, groups. Michelle, you think, send us before you leave on your vacation, and I will do the same. And then any thoughts you have, because this is our first time to brainstorm. And I'll start collecting the information from you all and start, putting down our ideas.
All right.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
All right.
So Michelle, when are you back from your vacation?
Not until the 18th of September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Utah, Colorado, and Ohio.
Oh, well, okay, well, have a good time. Well, and then Nancy, you're here, and Robert, you're here. And I'll be gone just 1 week at the end of August. So I don't know how we're gonna miss Michelle. Well, maybe we'll have a meeting without you and I'll record it and send it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? Why don't we do that? So, yeah, because, oh, wait a minute, today's the 15th. No, it's not. It's the
The
9th.
9th.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll think about it. Let's see what we can get done.
All right.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Okay.
All right.
Have a great time, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.